Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Game Hub. I'm your host GamerK, and it is time for... Okay, technically there's 5 months in May this year, but I only do 4 videos for a month. And oh boy, I picked a good one to go out on. For a couple, well, not last, like I don't do them consecutively, but I've been doing the DLC for Assassin's Creed 3, The Tyranny of King Washington. I've done episodes 1 and 2. And it's time to end this this DLC list with episode 3, The Redemption. And I'm gonna say this, the Redemption is... I gotta say it's more interesting than the first 2 episodes, but as an ender, oh boy, does it let people down a lot. So let's start off with, in the previous episode, we got away from Boston and is heading to New York. And as we're sailing into the New York waters, we see a giant pyramid. Did not know Assassin's Creed Origins was being developed this early. But in retrospect, I can kind of see it. I mean, instead of George Washington building a castle for himself, a pyramid does have a better image showing coming into New York than a castle. So, props for the creativity on this part. We start off by getting a short naval combat sequence in the beginning in order to get into the waters by fighting all the ships and dodging some rocks. During which Connor tells Faulkner about his grandfather, Haytham Kenway. Foreshadowing into Assassin's Creed Black Flag could not have been more prompt. And after we get there, Ganondokon attacks King Washington, almost killing him. And then it is time for our final spirit sky journey with, let's see, we got hungry like the wolf and obtained the wolf's cloaking abilities and the 3 wolf packs. We flied like an eagle into the scene and got the eagle power of flight. And now, look for the bear necessities as we get the bear power. This one is okay. I love the wolf power because I like stealth. I liked the eagles and the bear. Really good. As like the other sky journeys, we have to do a certain task for each animal. For the wolves, it was hunting an elk and feeding it. For the eagle, it was defending the eggs and then doing that stupid eagle flight simulator game. And now for this one, we have to deal with a giant ass bear who is injured with a whole bunch of arrows in it. So we gotta climb the bear, and in doing so, pulling the arrows out. And then after we do all of that, we get the bear's might. And then we have to fight. We have to fight right towards the fake George Washington, which is just an image of the sky world. And he sends thousands upon thousands of soldiers where you can just run into them, use the bear shockwave, and it is amazing. The way they do the powers in this DLC is beautiful. It's supernatural, but at the same time, it does fit within the abilities of the animals. I mean, the wolves are known to be stealthy predators, so stealth is a good idea. Having the eagle flight to get from vantage point to vantage point real quickly, and the bear's might to blast your way through a whole bunch of enemies makes sense. So at least the powers make sense in this game. Then, so, going into detail, and then we gotta pretty much build a revolution against the king in order to get us into the pyramid, where we do like I'm jumping past the story a little bit because, again, not much of a story in this one. It's basically helping the rebels build up the resistance and in order to push our way in. We do a couple investigation sections where we find out what happened to his mother beforehand. Somehow she got to New York and then back to the frontier. I think that tracks. And we do a little puzzle in order to get into the Hall of Power, which is very, very empty with one big throne in the middle. Suddenly I'm starting to think Darth Vader doesn't not Darth Vader, the Emperor is less cliche than usual. So, and after that, we do the whole boss battle on the top of the pyramid, and I'll get to that in a bit. So, detail-wise, the main focus of the redemption is basically building up the rebels' forces by doing certain quests during a certain mission. So we have 8 main missions in the game in the episode, and 4 side missions, and those comprise of attacking the convoys 3 times. So recycling what we've already done from episodes 1 and 2, defending citizens, how original, giving meat to hungry citizens, once again original again, and rescuing the citizens from being killed, once again very original. That's why I don't like side missions like these. When they're so repetitive that you get really tired of looking for them. Well, here's hoping that the new game won't have that much repetitiveness. Let's see what else. So in the 8 missions, we gather the forces, and one of my favorite ones is the middle, is near the end, where we'll have to do we have to fill up the meter of resistance by doing certain tasks, and these tasks are actually very diverse, which I love. For example, escorting rebel leaders from point A to point B, but it's not a pain in the rear like in some games. Killing blue coat lieutenants, which with all your animal power should be easy peasy. Destroying cannons, which makes sense. Destroying statues of George Washington, which, to be fair, even his ego needs to be destroyed. And honestly, I may be kind of a nutcase for liking this, but I enjoyed going on the ropes and hanging blue coat men in the town square. That just shows that they are mortal. They can be defeated to the townsfolk, and it just sends a message that we are done with the king. And it may be sadistic, but I enjoyed doing that. I actually missed the rope darts in Assassin's Creed, and we got them at the end of Black Flag, and we didn't get to use them as much, so yeah. So after doing that, we get in, and then there's that whole speech with Washington, that how he's in his clear head and how he's freedom itself, that whole power-hungry babble. And the boss fight kind of compensates how we lost in the first episode and what we did better in the Sky World journey after we injured Ben Franklin by using the wolf power and the eagle power. So he returns those glowing orbs that circle him, in which we need to do the wolf stealth in order to get around them. And he includes a couple ground shockwaves with his scepter, which we will use the eagle flight to get out of the way. And then after we damage him a little bit, we will go to the corners of the pyramid and use the bear shock in order to break it. So we have that whole falling from power kind of cliche. Ever notice that every villain of power eventually falls to their death? I mean, the Emperor did it. Practically every Disney villain has ever done it. So, yeah. Let's see. What else about the boss fight? Oh! George Washington creates his soldiers, which become a hindrance when you're trying to do the bear technique. But overall, the boss fight's really good. It's a great ending with a couple banter back and forth between Washington and Connor, and Rotana Gatun in this one, I guess. A couple things I really wished that were in this DLC were better side missions. Like in the previous ones, like input some of the characters from the homestead into this, like they did in the first 2 episodes. I mean, they kind of did in this one, but not as much. And they only made them like small little cameos in the for missions, but I wish that they did all of them. Like, we only get like a good couple of them. So, I mean, we have Faulkner back. We've got Sam Adams, Ganondokun. We have Ben Franklin. So why not have the people who we actually cared for in the game? Because if I recall, Ben Franklin only appeared during when we were Haytham. So I don't think he even met Connor. Not that I can remember. But it's things like that make me think that this DLC was just an ending project for Assassin's Creed 3. Like, they didn't want to put too much effort into it, which is a real shame, because I really enjoyed it. The lucid memory fragments for New York are as follows. We have in the fort where Haytham and Connor finally duked it out for the last time. We got Connor's hanging that almost happened at the end of Sequence 8. We got, and for some reason, we have Desmond's sacrifice with the device, for some reason. Another example of doing these memory fragments from the real timeline that showcases important scenes from the game. And I really like it when games do this kind of memento thing, and I just wish that other games did it like this. Like after you defeat a level, when you go back to a specific part of the game where a big event happens, we do get that memory back. Like, we get to view what happened there and get to relive it. It's something that should be done in future games, but done correctly. And then after doing that, we find out that again Washington is having these vivid nightmares with the apple. Connor asks him to hand it over because he doesn't know that power can corrupt. And basically at the end of all this, Washington grabs his apple, goes on his throne, and we're giving visions of us on the throne, Ganondokun, our mother, and then we take it, and then it turns, and quite honestly, with the lucid memory fragments, like with those, throughout all 3 episodes, you can kind of tell where the big end twist is going to be. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, after all we went through in the tyranny of King Washington, getting all those powers, having our mother killed in front of us, yet again, having the rest of our people die, having Ganondokun die again, seeing Samuel Adams get killed in the most brutal scene ever, it was all an illusion. Yeah. All three episodes mounted off to an illusion. It was just an illusion the apple created to show Connor and the king, like maybe to make sure that the king, I think it was something like the Horcruxes from, wow, I never thought I'd be using a Harry Potter analogy, where the apple sensed that it was going to be taken away and never used, so it created that illusion to keep Washington and Connor occupied for a long, long time. And at the end of it, Washington gives us the apple, and he's horrified by the visions he saw. And then at the end of the DLC, we see Washington in his office, and a soldier is talking to him about someone needs to lead the country as king. And then Washington gives one of his great speeches that is in history. And I remember this speech from in Walt Disney World in Magic Kingdom in the Hall of Presidents, where they have that show where they do have all the presidents, and they have Washington's great speech about no man should lead the country as a king. It doesn't need a monarchy. They do it. They do it in the end of the DLC, and it's more as the soldier is Washington's darkness. Like, it's that little voice in his head that's telling him that you could rule. You could become the man the people want. And Washington's casting his darkness aside, and it's a great moment at the end of the DLC. It's practically a great way to incorporate the history into making it seem like it's dark, like he was battling his own demons. And then Connor drops the apple into the sea. Because that worked before. No, it did not. It did not work before. So, overall, the Assassin's Creed Tyranny of King Washington DLC is a fun DLC. It's basically just an alternate story and a big what if in of American history. And that's something that should be done a lot, but if it's done in a way that it feels like that stupid episode of a TV show where they do a whole alternate reality sequence or a dream sequence, it doesn't matter if you play through it or not, because nothing amounts to anything. It's just for fun. I mean, I would play it again, and I did before I did any of these videos, mostly because for the animal powers. The animal powers were the best part of the game. This, in the future, if any company makes a video game where the main hero uses animal abilities in order to for combat, I would wholeheartedly check that game out to see if it's done right. But this is an example of how animal powers can really be used in a video game perfectly for combat. This game definitely made it amazing, but other games could definitely make it even better. So, but with all the problems, like it being a little short, clocking in at 2 hours to beat, and to get all the main all the trophies, which there's only really one you really need to worry about getting, and that's, you know, defeating 125 enemies with the bear aftershock, and also, you know, completing everything in New York. The completionist thing is only going to take you about an extra hour at most, because the other trophies, I mean, like, one you'll get at the end of the game. So, yeah, there's no real challenge to getting trophies in this game. So, yeah, clocking in at 3 hours for completionists, 2 hours overall. And again, it's kind of basic, but it's an enjoyable basic DLC. It doesn't go too far. It doesn't go too little. So, Episode 1 got a 7 out of 10 because of its simplicity. Episode 2 got an 8 because of its, you know, it did good. It didn't do terrible. And this one, it does a little bit of both. It doesn't do enough story, but at the same time, it does enough to make sure that this is a finale. This is the ending of the journey. So, I gotta give the Tyranny of King Washington Episode 3, The Redemption, an 8 out of 10. It's good. Overall, the whole DLC would be, let's see, 2 8s and a 7. I'm gonna go with that, making it a 7 or an 8.5. It's really good. It's perfect. Well, it's not perfect. I mean, it's a DLC of what if in history, so, well, at least it didn't end like The Sopranos, where it cut black in mid-sentence. Okay, no, I'm not going to do that joke. It's been done. That joke's been done. So, that's it for the DLC of the Tyranny of King Washington, but in the future, I will be doing more DLC reviews, and hopefully they were all more impressive than this one. And that's it for the month of May, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for following this video. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and next month, the month of June, is my father's birth month. His birthday will be in the second week of June. So I had him pick 4 videos of mine to do for that month. And coming next time for the first week of June, in the next review, where we're going, we won't need roads. This is Gamer K, logging out.